you attended this mosque, the very same mosque where Alton himself, Yisrael, attended. And what did you observe?
I observed the teachings of Islam. It took 2 years to learn what I know about Islam today.
That, of course, was Noor, who we had on earlier in the show, on our show, in a two-parter. Joining us now is director of Jihad Watch and New York Times best-selling author Robert Spencer. And Robert, welcome, sir. Always great to talk to you.
Good to be here, Steve.
All right, let's talk about it. You broke the story of Noor. You broke the story of what went on in that Oklahoma City mosque, that the beheader, if you will, attended. And Noor told us, a chilling story. Yet through it all, as you also broke the story the other day, weekend, the president sent a White House official to that mosque, to Oklahoma City, to reassure the Muslim community that they're still part of the fabric of America. What is going on here?
It's just absurd, Steve, and it's really the fruit of a years-long effort by groups like the Hamas-linked Council on American Islamic Relations and its allies to stigmatize any opposition to jihad terror as hatred and bigotry, and to portray Muslims as the innocent victims whenever there's a jihad plot or jihad attack. And so the knee-jerk reaction of the Obama administration when there's this beheading in Oklahoma is to think, oh, we have to make sure that the Muslims feel reassured that everything's okay. Not, we have to reassure the non-Muslims that there aren't going to be more beheadings. Not, we have to call upon this mosque to stop teaching whatever it's teaching that may have incited Jakim Yisrael. After all, the Quran does in two places, chapter 8, verse 12, and chapter 47, verse 4, call on believers to behead unbelievers. And so he might have learned this kind of thing in the mosque, but there's been no investigation, no questioning, just a solicitude for their own well-being. Now, certainly, no innocent people should be attacked, and there should be a concern for any legitimate backlash. But actually, the hysteria over backlash attacks after jihad plots or jihad attacks is wildly exaggerated. And most of the time, innocent people are not victimized, which is all to the good, but there's just no concern whatsoever where it ought to be on calling these mosques to account and on saying, look, whatever you're doing, you need to stop. And what you need to do is institute a program to teach against this understanding of Islam that you ostensibly reject.
Well, Robert,
it leads to violence.
Absolutely, and I'm sorry to interrupt there. The president's note said, your service is a powerful example of the powerful roots of the Abrahamic faiths and how our communities can come together with shared peace and dignity and with a sense of justice. I mean, not only did he send this, but we also know that Eric Holder, before he leaves, is going to do more damage to our country by banning federal officials, federal law enforcement, from doing what they employed at one point Noor for several years, apparently, from 06 to 011 to do, which was go to a mosque, go to that mosque, sit there and try to find out if there's any nefarious goings-on. And now that's going to all stop under Obama and Holder.
Yes. And it's ridiculous, Steve. I mean, really, it's kind of amazing when you think about it. Jakim Yisrael didn't grow up in a vacuum, but Obama would have us believe that the mosques teach, including the Islamic Society of Greater Oklahoma City, don't teach anything like what he believed, and that the Islamic State, which he obviously admired, is not Islamic. And so, therefore, he must have just sprung up out of nothing. Now, this is absolutely ridiculous. This is an epidemic problem. It's an international problem. And what we have is an official policy of fantasy and unreality about it.
All right. Is it accidental, Robert, or is it accidentally on purpose? Does Obama know what he's doing here? Or is he just so ignorant and is just so enamored of Islam and how beautiful it is and peaceful it is that he just doesn't understand?
No, I think that what he's trying to do is shore up his domestic policies. He's brought whole communities of Muslims from Syria, from Iraq, from Somalia, from Bosnia into the country, dropped them down in the middle of American communities with no attempt made to determine the extent of allegiance to the jihad imperative among these groups. And so he's trying to reassure Americans and to make them not suspicious and not think, was this really a wise policy? He's trying to reassure Americans who may be suspicious of the Hamas-linked groups like CARE and the Islamic Society of North America that he has done such extensive collaboration with in his administration. He's trying to deflect scrutiny away from that and continue this unreality. But it's going to come down sooner or later. There's going to be a jihad attack or a jihad plot that is the obvious direct result of these policies. And so, you know, they're going to have the responsibility.
Robert, great to talk to you, sir. Check out Jihad Watch, ladies and gentlemen, the great Robert Spencer. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care. All right, folks, and we'll be back with this hour's American Moment. Don't go away.
It was called the War to End All Wars, but instead it only served as a prelude of worse things to come. It was the world's first universal war, with the nations of the United States, United Kingdom, France, Greece, Italy, Russia, and 19 other countries declaring war on Austria-Hungary, Bulgaria, Germany, the Ottoman Empire, and the other European-based nations. As the wars before it, and those after it, this war would prove to be a long, bloody, and costly conflict. For the first time, chemical weapons were used in organized warfare. In 1915, the Germans unleashed 150 tons of chlorine gas at Ypres, Belgium. Then 2 years later, used mustard gas against the Russians at Riga. World War I also gave birth to a new form of battle called trench warfare. Opposing armies would build elaborate trenches opposite one another, protected by barbed wire. The trenches themselves became havens for disease and life-threatening infections due to poor drainage and sanitation. The area between the opposing armies became known as no man's land, because it was fully exposed to artillery and small arms fire from both armies. Attacks, even if successful, often sustained severe casualties for both sides. So when it finally came to an end, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918, soldiers from both sides greeted the news with great skepticism. Neither side dared to let themselves believe their long nightmare had finally come to an end, leaving an estimated 8.5 million people dead and some 21 million wounded. The actual peace document, known as the Treaty of Versailles, was not signed until 6 months later, on the 28th of June, 1919. Although the face of the civilized world had forever changed, 21 short years later, history would again repeat itself. For Newsmax TV, I'm Bill Curtis, and this is an American Moment.